Okay, we are back here with Blaine Conzatti, president of the Idaho Family Policy Center, and we've just been going over a bunch of the bills that are definitely on their radar over there. And one issue specifically seems to have two bills that are trying to tackle the same thing, and that's children's access to pornography online. And we know that this is a huge problem. We heard some testimonies that said that children are being exposed to this stuff as early as 13 years old, and that can have a dramatic effect on children growing up and being and we're not talking about just like a picture of a topless woman here. We're talking about really graphic material. And so there's two bills going through. Senate Bill 1253, which seeks to make the creators of these devices, of phones, Apple, Samsung, whoever, to have the filters turned on, the parental filters turned on for any device that's going to a child. And then we have this other bill that, which is House Bill 448, that is putting the onus on the content provider to say, if you're going to be delivering this material, you need to verify the age of the consumer. What's your take on both of these bills? Can they both coexist? Or do we need to favor one or the other? What's your take?
So one thing that I think we all should agree on is that we have an epidemic of pornography consumption throughout this nation. It's truly is a public health crisis. It's affecting young brains. It causes sexual violence, sexual perversion, all sorts of issues, all sorts of cultural issues. I mean, even the state legislature has recognized in its legislative findings in the past that pornography consumption contributes to juvenile delinquency and other issues. So we certainly want to take hold of this problem and find real solutions. I think Senator Cook's porn filter bill attempts to do that. Unfortunately, there are some constitutional issues with that bill, so we are remaining neutral on that bill as an organization because of those constitutional issues. Essentially, the U.S. Supreme Court has said that restrictions on pornography are considered under what's called a strict scrutiny analysis, which is a very, very high bar. The government has to prove there's compelling interest and that it's the least restrictive means of addressing the issue. And the U.S. Supreme Court has already said that filters are not the least restrictive means. So I don't think that legislation would be upheld in court unless the Supreme Court overruled prior precedent. When it comes to the porn verification, age verification bill that was in the House by Representative Elaine Price and Representative Julianne Young and Senator Ben Taves, we're fully supportive of that. We believe that's constitutional. It's been upheld in other states that have tried it over the last year, and it's been very successful. Louisiana, for example, has seen an 80% decrease in porn consumption since their law, which is a similar law, went into effect. Pornhub has pulled out of several states that have passed such laws. Pornhub, of course, is the largest provider of pornography in the world. And so those laws, those porn age verification laws, are constitutional, and they're also incredibly effective at restricting children's access to pornography.
Wow, that's fascinating. What a dramatic decrease in consumption of this. How do they and you're saying like some of these sites are pulling out completely because why? Because they don't have the mechanism to check and verify, or they'd rather not go through it and deal with it, or because is there a penalty if they do not? How is it so effective? This is fascinating to me.
Yeah, so it is really effective. The mechanism to verify a user's age does exist. Alcohol companies, tobacco companies already do this. Lottery websites, oftentimes online gambling, for example, is required to verify the age of its users. So this technology does exist. The porn companies don't want to do it. And I think a lot of that is because they feel threatened. A large portion of their consumer base is teenagers who are accessing porn on their phones, and they realize that their business model might not continue working as it has in the past if they comply with these laws. So in political protests, they just pull out entirely. But even if they don't pull out, we are still restricting children's access to those websites because they're required to verify the age of the user.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds promising. So we'll keep an eye on that. When it comes to how people can support your efforts and stuff, you run petitions, you run activist calls to action and so forth. How do people make sure that we're getting involved here? And oh, here we go. We got a petition. You got a petition drive going on. So walk me through this.
Yeah. So one thing that Idaho Family Policy Center leads on in the state is grassroots mobilization. We do key targeted action alerts at the right time to help get bills through the process. And right now, one of our efforts is a petition on library pornography. As you mentioned, Matt, there is some sort of compromise bill coming down the pipe on this issue. We hope it's effective. We are not involved in those conversations, but we sure hope it's effective, and we hope that we'll be able to support it when it's released. In the meantime, we are gathering signatures for a petition that we will deliver to both sides of the legislature as well as Governor Little, asking them to take real action to address this issue once and for all. And so people can go to our website, idahofamily.org. They can download printable petitions, petition pages, and go to their church, gather signatures, go to their Christian schools, gather signatures, etc., and return those petitions. We're already at just about 2,000 signatures. I think within the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be to 6,000 or 8,000 signatures, and that's a really good number of signatures to deliver to the legislative leadership on both sides and Governor Little.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, there's a long road ahead here. I mean, if this new bill comes back within the next several days or so, it's got to make its way through the House, then it's got to make its way through the Senate committees, and you know it could crumble at any moment, and then of course it can make its way to the governor's desk where he gets pressured as well. So thank you for keeping the pressure on. You definitely are a leading force in this fight, the leading force, I think, when it comes to an organization on the ground that is mobilizing people. So great work there, Blaine. What else are you? I want to leave you. I want to leave everybody with what else you're working on. What can we expect later in the session, perhaps?
Yeah, so we have been working with legislators on a small handful of bills, helping to recommend language that makes bills constitutional and defensible, or effective in terms of enforcement. Obviously, we can't talk about those bills until they're introduced, but they will be introduced probably in the next 2 weeks. But besides for that, we are calling on our legislature to address the abortion reporting loophole that we found about 4 or 5 months ago. Our organization released a report detailing the issue where abortions are being performed in state, specifically at St. Al's Hospital System in Boise, and not being reported to Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. We don't think there's many abortions that are falling within this loophole, but it's enough that the state legislature needs to act and needs to close this loophole to ensure that every abortion being performed in the state, even if it's legal, is reported to Department of Health and Welfare so that the legislature can make good policy decisions.
Wow, we're going to have to look into that more. Are you saying that you're not necessarily saying that there are illegal abortions happening? We just don't know what they are yet. Is that what you're saying?
We just don't know what they are because they're being performed and not reported to the Department of Health and Welfare because of this loophole in the abortion reporting statute. Okay,
well, you heard it. You heard it here, guys. Let's keep on that and make sure that gets through as well. We need to know what's going on. All right. Well, Blaine, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to check back with you in a couple weeks and see how things stand. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, folks. We will be back with more after this.